Hello, everyone. Welcome to English in Advance. I am your host, Jessica, and I am absolutely thrilled that you have decided to join me today for another deep dive into the English language. Today, we are going to be spending a lot of quality time together, focusing on one of the most practical and essential skills you will ever need as an English learner, which is the art of making plans. Whether you want to grab a cup of coffee with a friend, or schedule a serious business meeting, or perhaps organize a dinner party for your family, knowing exactly what to say and how to say it is the key to building strong relationships and feeling confident in your daily life. We are going to take this slowly and really explore the nuances of the language so you can move from a B1 level right up into that confident B2 territory and beyond. I want you to relax and just listen to my voice as we walk through these scenarios together, because by the end of this episode, you will have a toolkit full of natural expressions that will make you sound just like a native speaker. Let us start by imagining a very common situation where it is Friday afternoon and you have had a long week at work or school and you really want to do something fun this weekend. The first step in making any plan is finding out if the other person is actually available. Now, beginners often say simple things like, "Are you free?" But as an intermediate learner, you want to add more variety and softness to your language. A lovely way to open this conversation is by asking, "Do you have any plans for the weekend?" Notice how natural that sounds. It is open and friendly, and it does not put too much pressure on the other person. You could also say, "Have you got anything going on this Saturday?" This phrase, "have you got anything going on," is extremely common in spoken English, especially in the United States and Canada. It basically means, "Are you busy?" but it sounds much more casual and relaxed. If you are talking to a colleague or someone you do not know quite as well, you might want to be a little more polite, so you could ask, "I was wondering if you are free on Sunday." Using the phrase "I was wondering" instantly makes your question sound softer and more polite, which is a great trick to know when you are trying to be respectful of someone else's time. Once you have established that the person is free, the next step is to actually make a suggestion. This is where many learners get stuck because they worry about using the wrong grammar. But there are some foolproof structures we can use here. One of my absolute favorites is the phrase "how about." It is simple, it is effective, and it is followed by the ing form of the verb. For example, you could say, "How about going to the cinema?" Or "How about trying that new Italian restaurant downtown?" It is a suggestion, but it is phrased as a question, which invites the other person to give their opinion. Another very similar structure is "what about." You can use them interchangeably, so you might say, "What about meeting for a coffee at 10 o'clock?" Both of these are excellent for casual settings with friends and family. If you want to be a bit more direct and show enthusiasm, you can use the phrase "let's." This is short for "let us" and acts as a command, but a friendly one. You can say, "Let's go for a hike," or "Let's check out the museum exhibit." Notice the energy in that phrase. It shows that you are excited about the idea and you want the other person to join you. Now let us pause for a moment and practice this in our minds. Imagine you are talking to your best friend. You want to see a movie. You pick up your phone and you start typing or speaking. You do not just say, "I want movie." No, you say, "Hey, do you have any plans tonight? Because I was thinking we could go see a movie." That phrase, "I was thinking we could," is another golden expression for you. It shows that you have an idea, but you are open to discussion. It is very collaborative. I was thinking we could grab a bite to eat, or I was thinking we could go for a walk in the park. It is gentle, and it sounds incredibly fluent. When you use expressions like these, you are telling the listener that you understand the rhythm of English conversation, which is not just about exchanging information, but about building a connection. Of course, making plans is a two-way street, and sometimes you will be the one receiving the invitation. Knowing how to accept or decline an invitation gracefully is just as important as knowing how to ask. Let us talk about saying yes first, because that is the fun part. If someone asks you to go out and you are available, you want to show enthusiasm. Instead of just saying yes, which can sound a little bit flat or robotic, try saying that sounds great or I would love to. These little additions make a huge difference. If your friend says, "How about dinner tonight?" you can reply, "That sounds wonderful. What time were you thinking?" Notice how I immediately followed up the acceptance with a question about the details. This keeps the conversation flowing and moves the plan forward. You can also use idiomatic expressions like, "I'm down for that," or "count me in." These are very informal slang expressions that are perfect for close friends. If your friend says, "Let's go to the beach," you can say, "Count me in," which means include me, I am definitely coming. However, we all know that life is busy and sometimes we have to say no. Declining an invitation can be awkward if you do not have the right vocabulary because you do not want to hurt the other person's feelings. In English culture specifically, it is often considered a bit rude to just say no. We usually soften the blow with an apology or an explanation. The magic phrase here is, "I'd love to, but..." This is your best friend when you need to refuse a plan politely. For example, if someone asks you to the cinema, you can say, "I'd love to, but I have to study for an exam," or "I'd love to, but I am actually busy tonight." It shows that you appreciate the offer, even though you cannot accept it. Another very polite way to decline is to say, "I'm afraid I can't." This does not mean you are actually scared. It is just a formal way of saying, "I am sorry, but it is not possible." You might say, "I'm afraid I can't make it on Saturday as I have a family commitment." If you want to leave the door open for a future plan, you can use the expression, "Can I take a rain check?" This is a wonderful idiom that comes from baseball, but we use it in everyday life to mean I cannot do it now, but I would like to do it another time. So you say, "That sounds fun, but can I take a rain check?" This tells your friend that you are still interested in seeing them later. Let us dig a little deeper into the logistics of making plans, because deciding to meet is only the first step. You also need to agree on a time and a place, and this requires a good command of prepositions and time expressions. When we talk about specific times, we use the preposition at. So you would say, "Let's meet at 7 o'clock, or shall we meet at noon?" When we talk about days, we use on, so you say, "Let's meet on Tuesday." It is very important not to mix these up because it can sound confusing. A very useful phrase for negotiating the time is, "Does that work for you?" After you suggest a time, like "Let's meet at 5, always check in with the other person by asking, "Does that work for you?" or simply, "Is that okay for you?" This gives them a chance to check their schedule and agree or suggest an alternative. If the time does not work for them, they might say, "Actually, 6 is better for me," or "Could we push it back to 6:30? To push something back means to make it later. Conversely, if they want to meet earlier, they might say, "Could we bring it forward to 4 o'clock? These phrasal verbs, bring forward and push back, are extremely useful business. English terms that are also used in social situations, so I highly recommend adding them to your vocabulary bank. Sometimes, despite our best efforts, plans have to change. Canceling or rescheduling is a part of life, and doing it in English requires a delicate touch. You never want to leave someone waiting, so communicating clearly is essential. If you need to cancel, try to give as much notice as possible. You can start by saying, "I am so sorry, but I won't be able to make it." Then it is usually polite to give a vague reason, like something has come up. This phrase, "something has come up," is perfect when you have a personal emergency or an unexpected work issue, but you do not want to go into the specific details. It is professional and polite. If you want to reschedule immediately, you can say, "I am so sorry I can't make it tonight. Can we reschedule for next week? Or perhaps let's aim for next Tuesday instead." Using the word aim implies that you are targeting that date, but you are aware that things might change again. It keeps things flexible. I want to take a moment now to talk about the tone of your voice when you are having these conversations. In English, intonation plays a massive role in how your message is received. When you are making a suggestion, try to make your voice go up a little at the end to sound inviting. If you say, "Let's go to the park," with a flat voice, it sounds like an order. But if you say, "Let's go to the park," with a rising, lively intonation, it sounds like a fun idea. Similarly, when you are declining an invitation, your voice should drop a little and sound sincere. If you say "I can't" come with a smile in your voice, it sounds sarcastic or rude. You need to sound genuinely sorry. So when you practice these phrases, try to act them out. Imagine the feelings behind the words. Are you excited? Are you regretful? Are you in a hurry? Connecting the emotion to the vocabulary is what will help you remember these expressions when you are in the middle of a real conversation. Now let us weave all of these elements together into a longer narrative example so you can hear how they flow naturally in a continuous context. Imagine you have a friend named Sarah. You haven't seen Sarah in a few weeks and you really miss her. You decide to call her. The phone rings and she picks up. You start with some small talk asking how she is, and then you transition to the plan. You say, "Hey Sarah, I was wondering if you have any plans for this coming weekend." She replies that she is mostly free on Saturday. You seize the opportunity and say, "That is great because I was thinking we could finally try that new sushi place downtown." Sarah sounds excited and says, "That sounds amazing. I love sushi." Now you need to set the time. You suggest, "How about we meet there at 7?" Sarah hesitates and says, "Actually, 7 is a bit tight for me. Could we make it 7:30? You reply, "7:30 works perfectly for me." Then, just to be sure, you confirm the location by saying, "Great, so I will see you at the sushi place on Main Street at 7:30 on Saturday." She says, "Perfect, see you then." This little story illustrates how simple the structure actually is. It is an opening question followed by a suggestion, then a negotiation of time, and finally a confirmation. The key is the back and forth flow. You are not just throwing information at each other, you are cooperating to build a plan that works for everyone. As you listen to this, try to imagine yourself in my shoes. Imagine you are the one holding the phone. Can you hear yourself saying those words? "I was wondering if you are free. How about we meet? 7:30 works for me." Repetition is the mother of skill, so do not be afraid to say these phrases out loud right now wherever you are. Even if you are on the bus or walking down the street, whispering them to yourself. helps your mouth muscles get used to the shapes of English sounds. Let us continue our journey into the art of making plans by looking at a very specific aspect of English grammar that often confuses learners, but is absolutely vital for sounding natural when you talk about your schedule. I am talking about the difference between using the present continuous tense and using will or going to. Now, I know grammar terms can sometimes feel a bit dry, but stay with me, because this is actually a secret weapon for fluency. When native speakers talk about plans that are already organized and confirmed, they almost always use the present continuous tense. For example, imagine you have already bought your plane ticket to Paris. You would not say, "I will go to Paris next week." You would say, "I am going to Paris next week." The structure is the verb to be, plus the ing form. It implies that the plan is fixed. It is happening. If you say, "I am seeing my dentist tomorrow," it tells the listener that you have an appointment. It is in your calendar. On the other hand, if you are just making a decision right now in the moment, you use will. Imagine your phone rings. You say, "I will answer it." You did not plan to answer it yesterday, you just decided now. So when you are making plans with friends, pay attention to this distinction. If you are discussing a plan, you have already made use the continuous form. You can say, "Sorry, I cannot meet you on Friday. I am having dinner with my mother." This sounds much stronger and more definite than saying, "I will have dinner with my mother." It shows you have a prior commitment that cannot be easily changed. Now let us step into a very common and slightly more complex scenario, which is making a reservation at a restaurant. This is a form of making plans that involves a third party, the restaurant staff. It can be intimidating to speak on the phone, but with a few key phrases, you can do it smoothly. When you call the restaurant and someone answers, you start by saying, "I would like to book a table for 2 people for this Saturday night, please." Notice the polite opening, "I would like to." You can also use the word reserve instead of book, but book is very common in British and casual American English. The staff member might ask, "What time were you thinking?" You can reply, "We were hoping for 7:30. Using "we were hoping" adds a nice layer of politeness. It shows that you have a preference, but you understand if they are fully booked. If they say, "I am sorry, we are fully booked at 7:30, but we have a table at 8, you can say that would be fine, or 8 works for us. Once the time is settled, they will ask for a name. You say it is under the name of Smith, or simply under Smith. Finally, it is always good to ask about specific requirements. You might say, "Do you have any outdoor seating available, or could we have a quiet table in the corner?" Asking for these details in advance ensures your plan goes smoothly. When you finish the call, always confirm one last time by saying, "Great, so that is a table for 2 at 8 o'clock under Smith, thank you." This repetition confirms that you and the staff member have the same information. Sometimes making plans involves a bit of spontaneity. We do not always plan days in advance. Sometimes you are just hanging out with a friend and you decide to do something right then and there. We call this playing it by ear. This is a fantastic idiom that you must add to your vocabulary. To play it by ear means to decide as you go along without a strict plan. For example, your friend might ask, "What is the plan for Saturday night?" You can reply, "I am not sure. Yet let's just play it by ear." This means maybe we will go out, maybe we will stay in. We will decide when the time comes depending on how we feel. It takes the pressure off. Another phrase for this is to go with the flow. If you are a relaxed person who does not need a schedule, You are someone who likes to go with the flow. You might say, I don't mind where we eat. Let's just walk around downtown and see what looks good. I'm happy to go with the flow. This attitude is very appreciated in casual friendships because it makes you easy to be around. However, even when you are playing it by ear, you need to know how to make suggestions in the moment. Imagine you are walking down the street with your friend. You see a coffee shop. You can say, hey, do you want to pop in here for a quick coffee? To pop in means to enter a place for a short time. Or you might say, shall we grab a bite to eat? To grab a bite is a very common idiomatic expression for getting food, usually something quick and casual like a sandwich or a slice of pizza. You would not say, let's grab a bite if you are going to a fancy 5-course restaurant. In that case, you would say, let's go for a nice dinner. The vocabulary you choose sets the expectation for the event. If you say, let's grab a drink, it usually implies alcohol at a bar or pub. If you say, let's get coffee, it implies a daytime chat. Being precise with these words prevents misunderstandings about the vibe of the plan. Let us expand our scope to planning a trip or a weekend away because this involves more logistical language. When you are planning a trip with friends, you need to discuss transportation and accommodation. You might start by saying, how should we get there? This opens the discussion about transport. Your friend might suggest driving. You can say, I am happy to drive if everyone chips in for gas. To chip in means to contribute money towards a shared cost. This is a very useful phrasal verb for shared plans. You might say, let's all chip in $20 for the gift, or let's chip in for the groceries. When discussing accommodation, you might look at hotels or rental apartments, and you could say, I found a great place on Airbnb. It sleeps 4 people. The phrase it sleeps 4 means it has enough beds for 4 people. You might ask, is it centrally located? This is important because you want to be near the attractions. If the place is far away, you might say it is a bit out of the way. Being out of the way means it is not convenient to reach. If you want to save money, you might say we should look for something budget-friendly. On the other hand, if you want to celebrate a special occasion, you might say, let's splash out on a nice hotel. To splash out means to spend a lot of money on a treat. It is a fun, expressive verb. Another crucial aspect of making plans is dealing with indecision. Sometimes you ask a friend what they want to do, and they just say, I don't know. This can be a conversation killer if you do not know how to handle it. You can take the lead by offering a binary choice. This means giving them 2 options. You can say, well, would you prefer to stay indoors or go outdoors? By narrowing the options, you make it easier for them to decide. If they say indoors, you can then say, okay, would you rather watch a movie or play board games? This is a strategy called narrowing down the options. It helps the conversation move from, I don't know, to a concrete plan. You can also use the phrase, I am open to suggestions. This encourages the other person to think. Or you can be playful and say, if you don't decide, I am going to choose and we are going to the opera. Making a joke can lighten the mood and help the decision-making process. There is also a social etiquette regarding who pays when you make plans, especially for dining out. This varies by culture, but in English-speaking countries, it is very common to split the bill. You might hear the phrase, let's go Dutch. To go Dutch means everyone pays for themselves. It is a bit of an old-fashioned phrase now, but everyone understands it. More commonly, we just say, let's split it, or can we get separate checks, please? If you want to be generous and pay for your friend, you can say it's on me. This is a lovely short phrase. You grab the bill and say, "Don't worry, lunch is on me," or simply "my treat." If your friend protests and tries to pay, you can insist by saying, "No, I insist you paid last time." This back and forth is a polite dance that shows you value the friendship. However, if you are on a budget, do not be afraid to say beforehand, "Hey, I am a bit short on cash this week, so do you mind if we go somewhere cheap?" Being honest about your budget is better than stressing out over an expensive menu later. Your friends will appreciate your honesty. Let us talk about the concept of rain checks again, because it is so useful. Sometimes you have to cancel a plan not because you want to, but because you are sick or overwhelmed. In this case, you need to express genuine regret. You can say, "I am feeling really under the weather today. I don't think I would be good company." To be under the weather means to feel sick. Saying "I wouldn't be good company" is a very thoughtful thing to say. It means that because you are tired or sick, you would not be fun to be around, so it is better to reschedule for the sake of the other person. You can then say, "Let's reschedule for when I am feeling more up to it." To be up to something means to have the energy or capability to do it. For example, after a long run, you might not be up to going dancing. Using these expressions regarding your energy levels makes your English sound very human and relatable. Now I want to address a specific situation that many learners find difficult, which is ending the conversation after the plan is made. You have agreed on the time and place, but how do you say goodbye without it being abrupt? You need a transition phrase. A great one is "Wonderful. I am really looking forward to it." This signals that the conversation is ending and reconfirms your enthusiasm. You can also say, "Great, I have got to run now, but I will see you on Friday." The phrase "I have got to run" is a standard way to end a phone call or a chat. It does not literally mean you are running, it just means you have other things to do. You can conclude with "catch you later." This is casual and friendly. If it is a text message, you can just send a thumbs up emoji or say "can't wait." The phrase "can't wait" is a contraction of "I cannot wait," and it expresses high excitement. Let us start with transportation, because getting to the location is often half the battle. If you have a car and you want to offer a ride to your friend, this is a wonderful way to be helpful. The key phrasal verb here is pick up. You can say, "I can pick you up at 6. This means you will come to their house or location with your car. A more casual way to say this is, "I will swing by and get you." To swing by implies a quick detour or a casual stop. It sounds very relaxed. You might say, "I will swing by your place on my way to the cinema." If you are the one needing a ride, you can ask, "Could you give me a lift?" In British English, we often say, "Give me a lift." While in American English, "give me a ride" is also very common. Both are perfectly acceptable. If you want to offer to take someone home after the event, you use the phrasal verb drop off. You can say, "Do not worry about the taxi, I can drop you off." This simple offer, "I can drop you off," is one of the kindest things you can say to a friend at the end of a night. Now imagine you are meeting someone at a busy place like a train station or an airport. The vocabulary here needs to be precise so you do not miss each other. You might say, "I will wait for you at the kiss and ride." This is a funny term used in some countries for the area where people drop off passengers quickly. Or more formally, "I will meet you at the arrival gate." If you are driving and parking is difficult, you might say, "I will just pull over in front of the entrance, so keep an eye out for my car." To pull over means to stop the car by the side of the road. To keep an eye out means to watch carefully. These little instructional phrases are crucial for coordinating movement. If you are stuck in traffic, you can say traffic is bumper to bumper. This vivid idiom means the cars are so close, they are almost touching, and it explains why you are late perfectly without you needing to say many words. Let us shift gears to one of the most important aspects of making plans, which is food and dining. In modern society, many people have dietary restrictions or allergies, and discussing this is a normal part of making a restaurant plan. If you are organizing a dinner, it is very polite to ask, do you have any dietary requirements? This covers allergies, religious restrictions, and lifestyle choices, like veganism. If you are the one with the allergy, you must speak up clearly. You can say, actually, I am allergic to peanuts, so we need to be careful. Or, I am vegetarian. Do you know if that restaurant has good options for me? Using the phrase good options is a nice way to ask if you will actually have a choice of food rather than just a side salad. If you can eat anything, you can say, I am not fussy, I eat anything. Being not fussy makes you a very easy guest to cater for. Sometimes making plans involves inviting people to your home for a meal, but asking them to contribute. This is very common in English-speaking cultures, and we often call it a potluck. A potluck is a meal where every guest brings a dish to share. You might say, hey, let's have a potluck dinner on Saturday, everyone brings a dish. This is a great low-pressure way to host because you do not have to cook everything yourself. If you are invited to a dinner party, it is polite to ask, what can I bring? Even if the host says, oh, nothing, just bring yourself, it is often customary to bring a small gift, like a bottle of wine or some chocolates or perhaps some flowers. We call this a host gift. If the host says, please bring a bottle, they usually mean a bottle of wine or a drink of your choice. Understanding these unwritten rules of hospitality helps you fit in socially. Let us talk about the atmosphere or the vibe of a plan. Sometimes you want to go out and party, but sometimes you just want to relax. Describing the kind of plan you want helps set expectations. If you want something quiet and relaxed, you can use the word low-key. You might say, let's keep it low-key tonight, maybe just order a pizza and watch a movie. Low-key is the opposite of high energy or fancy. It implies wearing comfortable clothes and not spending much money. On the other hand, if you want to dress up and go somewhere expensive, you might say, let's have a big night out, or let's paint the town red. To paint the town red is a classic idiom meaning to go out and celebrate flamboyantly. You might not use it every day, but it is fun to know. If you are feeling energetic, you might say, let's hit the club. To hit a place means to go there with purpose. Let's hit the gym, let's hit the shops, let's hit the road. It adds a sense of action to your plan. I want to explore a specific type of plan that is very common in the professional world, which is the coffee chat. In many English-speaking countries, inviting someone for a quick coffee is a primary way to network or catch up without the pressure of a full meal. You might say to a colleague, hey, do you have time for a quick coffee this week? I would love to pick your brain about the new project. The idiom pick your brain is fantastic. It means I want to ask you questions and get your advice and knowledge. It is a compliment. It suggests you value their intelligence. A coffee chat usually lasts about 20 to 30 minutes. It is efficient. You might also hear the phrase, let's touch base. To touch base means to make contact briefly to update each other. You can say, let's touch base next week to finalize the details. These business casual expressions bridge the gap between formal meetings and friendly hangouts. Now, what happens when you have made a plan, but you realize you are going to be incredibly early. This happens sometimes. You can say, I will get there early and save us a seat. To save a seat is a very helpful action, especially in crowded bars or cinemas. If you are waiting for a friend and you have time to kill, you can use that exact phrase. I have an hour to kill before the movie starts. To kill time means to do something just to pass the time while waiting, like browsing on your phone or window shopping. Window shopping is when you look at the goods in the store windows, but you have no intention of buying anything. You can say, I was just window shopping while I waited for you. It is a great way to explain what you were doing. Let us move on to a slightly more sensitive topic, which is handling money within plans. We touched on splitting the bill earlier, but what about buying tickets in advance? If you are going to a concert, one person usually buys the tickets to ensure you sit together. You can say, I will buy the tickets online and you can transfer me the money later. The word transfer is the standard verb for sending money via a banking app. You might also hear, shoot me the money, which is very slang. Just shoot me the $20 on Venmo or PayPal. If you want to be sure you get paid back, you can politely say, let me know when you have sent it, or simply please settle up with me when you can. To settle up means to pay what is owed. It is a polite way to ask for your money without sounding aggressive. Another very useful area of vocabulary is describing the duration of plans. Sometimes you only have a short amount of time. You can say, I can only stay for an hour. I have an early start tomorrow. An early start means you have to wake up early the next morning for work or travel. This sets a clear boundary so your friend does not get offended when you leave early. If you want to make a day of it, you can use that phrase exactly. Let's go to the beach and make a day of it. This means you plan to stay from morning until evening doing various activities. It implies a full commitment of time. If you are doing something very quickly, you can say, it will be a flying visit. I will pop round to see your new baby, but it will be a flying visit. This manages expectations perfectly, letting the host know not to prepare a 3-course meal. Let us talk about the concept of a +1. When you are invited to a wedding or a large party, you might see on the invitation +1. This means you are allowed to bring a guest, usually a partner or a date. If you are unsure if you can bring someone, you must ask very politely. You can say, would it be all right if I brought my partner along? Never just show up with an extra person without asking, as this is considered very rude, especially if food is being served. If the host says, sorry, it is a small gathering just for close friends, you must accept that gracefully by saying no problem at all. I completely understand. Being a gracious guest is just as important as being a good host. Now, I want to give you some expressions for when you are actually doing the activity and you want to check in on how everyone is feeling. You can ask, are you having a good time? This seems simple, but it is the hallmark of a caring friend. If you notice someone looks a bit bored, you can suggest a change by saying, shall we make a move? To make a move usually means to leave the current location to go somewhere else or to go home. If the party is dying down, you can say, I think I am going to head off now. To head off is another way of saying leave. You can also say, I am going to call it a night. To call it a night is the perfect phrase to use when you are tired and ready to go to sleep. It signals clearly that the social interaction is over for you. Let us weave in some seasonal planning vocabulary because the time of year changes what we do. In the summer, we often talk about BBQs, which stands for barbecues. You might say, I am firing up the grill on Sunday, want to come over for a burger. To fire up means to start the fire or turn on the machine. In the autumn or fall, we might talk about cozy plans. Let's go pumpkin picking, or let's grab a hot chocolate. In the winter, specifically around the holidays, we have holiday parties. You might say, are you going to the office Christmas party this year? Or let's do a Secret Santa. Secret Santa is a game where a group of friends exchange gifts anonymously. Explaining these traditions to your English-speaking friends or asking them about their traditions is a great conversation starter. You can ask, what do you usually do for New Year's Eve? This question often leads to making a plan together. I also want to address the digital aspect of making plans. Nowadays, we often send a calendar invite. If you are making a formal plan or even a serious casual one, you can say, I will send you a calendar invite so you don't forget. This is very helpful. If you are meeting online for a video call, you need to send the link. You can say, I will email you the Zoom link 10 minutes before we start. Make sure to check the time zone if you are talking to someone in a different country. You can say, is that 3 o'clock your time or my time? Clarifying the time zone is crucial to avoiding missed appointments. You can use a tool like a time zone converter and say, I have checked, and that is 9 a.m. for me, so that works perfectly. Let us practice a scenario involving a slight conflict. Imagine you and your friend want to see a movie, but you cannot agree on which one. Your friend wants to see a horror movie, but you hate being scared. How do you say this without being boring? You can say, I am a bit of a chicken when it comes to horror movies. Calling yourself a chicken is a funny, idiomatic way of admitting you are scared. You can then propose a compromise. How about we see the comedy instead and I buy the popcorn? Offering a treat like popcorn is a great way to sweeten the deal. Or you can say, let's toss a coin. Heads, we watch your movie, tails, we watch mine. Tossing a coin is a fair way to resolve a simple disagreement, and it adds a bit of fun to the decision process. Another important skill is reminding someone of a plan without being annoying. If you made a plan 2 weeks ago and you haven't spoken since you might be worried they forgot, you can send a message saying, hey, just looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. This is a gentle reminder. It does not ask, do you remember? Instead, it assumes they remember and expresses excitement. If you need to confirm specific details, you can say, hey, just checking. Do you still want me to bring the dessert for tomorrow? By asking a specific question about a detail, you prompt them to confirm the whole plan. It is a clever social strategy. Let us talk about the phrase penciling someone in again because it is so versatile. If you are very busy, you might say, I can squeeze you in at 4. To squeeze someone in means you are making space in a tight schedule. It implies you are doing them a favor, so they should be on time. If you have a standing appointment, that means it happens at the same time every week. You might say, let's make this a standing date. For example, if you want to have lunch with your best friend, every Friday you say, let's make Friday lunch a standing date. This removes the need to plan every single week because it is automatic. This is a wonderful way to maintain friendships with minimal effort. I want to spend a moment on the language of enthusiasm. When someone suggests a plan, your reaction sets the tone. If you say, okay, sure, it sounds weak, try using adjectives like awesome, brilliant, or fantastic. That sounds brilliant, let's do it. If you are really excited, you can say, I am pumped. I am pumped for the concert. This is slang, but very common in North America. In the UK, you might hear "I am buzzing." Both mean you have high energy and excitement. Using these words makes the other person feel good about their suggestion. It validates them. What about when a plan is weather dependent? We talked about Plan B, but you can also use the phrase weather permitting. We will have a picnic in the park, weather permitting. This is a concise way of saying if the weather is good. If the weather is bad, you might have to take a rain check, which we learned earlier. Another phrase is play it by ear regarding the weather. We will see what the day brings. This is a very poetic way of being flexible. Let us look at some specific vocabulary for going to the cinema or theater. You might say, let's catch a movie. To catch a movie is more dynamic than watch a movie. You might ask, is it a matinee? A matinee is an afternoon performance, which is usually cheaper. If you are going to the theater, you might talk about the interval or intermission, which is the break in the middle. You can say, let's grab a drink during the interval. Knowing these specific terms helps you navigate the venue with confidence. I also want to encourage you to use questions that show you are considerate of the other person's comfort. For example, shall I come to you, or do you want to come to me? This gives them the choice of location. Or would you prefer a weekday or the weekend? By giving choices, you show respect for their schedule. If they say, oh, you choose, you can then be decisive. Okay, let's do my place this Saturday. Being decisive after being polite is the perfect balance. Let us briefly touch on the concept of being fashionably late. In some social circles, for a party specifically arriving exactly on time is considered a bit awkward because the host might still be setting up. Arriving 15 minutes late is often called being fashionably late. However, this only applies to large parties, not to dinner reservations or one-on-one meetings, where you should always be on time. If you are unsure, you can ask, should I come at 7 on the dot, or is later okay? On the dot means exactly. This question clears up any cultural confusion immediately. Now, I want you to visualize a full scenario of hosting a friend from out of town. This is a complex planning situation. You have to coordinate their arrival, their stay, and their entertainment. You might say, send me your flight details so I can track your plane. Then you might say, I have set up the guest room for you. Make yourself at home. Make yourself at home is the ultimate welcoming phrase. It means relax and use my house as if it were yours. You might ask, is there anything specific you want to see while you are here? This allows them to express their tourist wishes. You can then say, leave it with me. I will come up with an itinerary. An itinerary is a detailed plan or schedule of activities. Taking charge like this makes you an incredible host. As we continue to expand your vocabulary, remember that the goal is not perfection, but connection. If you forget the word for itinerary and just say list of places, that is absolutely fine. The person will understand you. But learning the word itinerary gives you that extra polish that moves you from B1 to B2. It allows you to express yourself with more nuance and precision. Let us practice a few closing lines for when plans are finalized. You can say it's a date. This is a friendly expression, used even between friends to say the plan is confirmed. You can say all set then. All set means everything is ready. You can say sorted. Sorted is very British and means the problem is solved or the plan is arranged. Saturday at 3, sorted. It is quick, efficient, and cool. But as we all know, life does not always go according to plan. Sometimes things go wrong, sometimes we forget. Sometimes we end up at the wrong restaurant on the wrong side of town. Today, we are going to focus on how to handle these hiccups with grace and fluency, because your ability to manage a difficult situation is the true test of your English level. We are going to learn how to apologize sincerely, how to clear up misunderstandings, and how to navigate those tricky social situations where you are not quite sure if a plan is real or just polite small talk. Let us start with a very common human error, which is simply forgetting a plan. We have all done it. You are busy with work and suddenly you receive a text asking, "Where are you?" and you realize you completely forgot. The first rule is to own up to it immediately. A fantastic idiom for this is, "It slipped my mind." You can say, "I am so incredibly sorry, it completely slipped my mind." This phrase suggests that the information was in your brain, but it accidentally slid out. It sounds less careless than saying, "I forgot." Another expression is, "I have a brain like a sieve." A sieve is a kitchen tool with holes used for draining water. So if you have a brain like a sieve, it means you are very forgetful. You might say, "I am so sorry I have a brain like a sieve these days, and I totally forgot our lunch date." Then you must offer to make it up to them. You can say, "How can I make it up to you?" or "Dinner is on me next time, I promise." This shows you value the relationship and want to repair the damage. Sometimes the issue is not that you forgot, but that there was a misunderstanding. We call this getting your wires crossed. Imagine two telephone wires touching and sending the signal to the wrong place. You can say, "I think we got our wires crossed. I thought we were meeting at the Italian place, not the Mexican place." This is a brilliant phrase because it does not blame the other person and it does not blame you. It blames the situation. It suggests a mutual confusion. Another way to say this is, "There must have been a mix-up." I think there was a mix-up with the time. Using the passive voice here removes the blame. Instead of saying, "You told me the wrong time," you say there was a mix-up. This keeps the atmosphere friendly and focused on the solution rather than the fault. Now I want to talk about a very specific cultural phenomenon that confuses many English learners. This is the vague or polite plan. In many English-speaking cultures, particularly in the US and the UK, people often say, "Let's have lunch sometime," or "We must catch up soon," as a way of saying goodbye, not as a real invitation. It can be hard to tell the difference. If someone says, "Let's do lunch," and then walks away without suggesting a time, it is likely just a polite pleasantry. You should respond with, "Yeah, let's do that," and keep walking. However, if you want to test if it is real, you can use the pinning down strategy we discussed earlier. You can say, "Absolutely, I am free next Tuesday, are you?" If they make an excuse without offering an alternative, it was probably just politeness. If they engage and look at their calendar, then it is real. Understanding this distinction prevents you from feeling rejected. It is not that they do not like you, it is just a social script. Let us move on to the language of flexibility when you are already in the middle of a plan. Sometimes you are out with a friend and you are having a terrible time at the place you chose. Maybe the music is too loud or the food is bad. You need to suggest moving without ruining the mood. You can say, "This place is a bit loud, shall we go somewhere quieter?" Or, "I am not really feeling the vibe here. Do you mind if we hop to another bar?" To hop means to move quickly and casually. Bar hopping is the activity of going to multiple bars in one night. You can also say, "Let's change scenery." A change of scenery usually helps to refresh the conversation. If you are walking outside and it starts to rain, you can say, "Let's duck inside this cafe." To duck means to lower your head, but in this context, it means to enter quickly to avoid the weather. These dynamic verbs like hop and duck make your English sound very active and native. There is also the situation where you run into someone unexpectedly. You are at the supermarket and you see an old friend. The standard greeting is fancy meeting you here. This expresses pleasant surprise. You can also say, what a small world. After the initial greeting, you might want to make a plan to see them properly. You can say, we cannot talk properly here. Let's schedule a real catch-up. This distinguishes the brief supermarket encounter from a quality social interaction. You might say, send me a text later, and we will sort something out. To sort something out is a versatile phrasal verb meaning to arrange or organize. It is one of the most common phrasal verbs in British English, but it is understood everywhere. Let us discuss the art of being late when it is not your fault. Maybe your bus broke down or there is a massive traffic jam. You need to communicate this while you are on your way. We learned I am running late, but you can be more specific. You can say I am held up in traffic. To be held up means to be delayed by external forces. You can say I am stuck at work, something urgent came up. If you are going to be very late, you might need to offer the other person an out. An out is an opportunity to cancel without guilt. You can say, I am going to be 40 minutes late, so if you want to reschedule, I completely understand. This is very considerate. It acknowledges that their time is valuable and they might not want to wait around for 40 minutes. If they say no worries, I will wait, you can say you are a lifesaver or thanks for being so patient. Now I want to give you some advanced grammar for making plans which involves using indirect questions. Direct questions like, do you want to come can sometimes sound a bit abrupt in formal situations or with people you do not know well. Indirect questions are softer. Instead of saying, are you free, you can say, I was wondering if you might be free. Instead of saying, what time is the movie, you can say, do you happen to know what time the movie starts? The phrase, do you happen to know, implies that it is okay if they do not know. It takes the pressure off. Another beautiful structure is, would you be up for? Would you be up for? Grabbing a coffee implies, do you have the energy and desire? It is casual but polite. Mastering these structures allows you to navigate social hierarchies with ease. Let us talk about the specific vocabulary of canceling due to illness. We mentioned feeling under the weather, but there are other phrases. You can say, I think I am coming down with something. To come down with something means you are at the beginning stages of an illness. You are not fully sick yet, but you can feel it starting. This is a valid reason to cancel because nobody wants to catch your cold. You can say, I don't want to pass it on to you, so let's reschedule. To pass it on means to transmit the virus. This shows you are being responsible. If you are just exhausted, you can say, I am wiped out. I have had a crazy week and I am completely wiped out. Wiped out means having zero energy. Most friends will understand this because we all have those weeks. What about when you have to leave a social gathering early? This can be awkward. You do not want to be the party pooper. A party pooper is someone who ruins the fun. To leave gracefully, you can say, I hate to eat and run, but I have to go. To eat and run means to eat the food and leave immediately, which is usually rude, but if you acknowledge it by saying, I hate to eat and run, it becomes acceptable. You can also use the phrase, I have an early morning tomorrow, or simply, I am fading fast. To fade means to lose energy. If you say I am fading, it implies you are about to fall asleep and people will naturally let you go. You can say, I am going to make tracks. To make tracks is an idiom meaning to start the journey home. Let us spend a moment on the concept of tentative plans. A tentative plan is one that is not 100% confirmed. We talked about penciling it in, but you can also say, let's keep it loose. Keeping it loose means we have a general idea but no strict schedule. You might say, let's aim for the weekend but keep it loose regarding the time. This is great for low-stress friendships. Another phrase is, let's see how we feel on the day. This grants total freedom. However, be careful using this with people who like structure, as it might stress them out. You need to read the person. If your friend is a planner, give them a time. If they are relaxed, keep it loose. I also want to touch on the language of persuasion. Sometimes you want to convince a friend to go out when they are feeling lazy. You can say, "Come on, it will be fun." Or twist my arm. Actually, twist my arm is usually used when someone persuades you. If your friend says, "Do you want another piece of cake?" you can say, "Oh, go on, then twist my arm." It means you did not need much persuasion. But if you are persuading them, you can say, "I won't take no" for an answer. This is a friendly command. You can say, "I am buying the first round," which refers to drinks. Offering to buy drinks is a classic persuasion tactic. You can also use the fear of missing out, or FOMO. You can say, "Everyone is going to be there. You will get FOMO if you stay home." This is a very modern expression, but very effective. Let us weave in some vocabulary about tickets and events again. If an event is sold out, it means there are no tickets left. However, you might say, "Let's try to get tickets on the door." This means going to the venue and hoping they have some left. You might say it is first come, first served. This means the people who arrive earliest get the best seats or the tickets. If you have a ticket that you cannot use, you might try to pass it off to a friend. You can say, "I have a spare ticket going to waste, do you want it?" Saying it is going to waste makes the offer sound like you need their help rather than you are giving them charity, which can make it easier for them to accept. Now I want to address the situation where you have a friend who is always late. We call this person punctually challenged. That is a humorous euphemism. If you are making plans with them, you might use a strategy called the lie gap. You tell them the dinner is at 7 when it is actually at 7:30. This ensures they arrive on time. You do not tell them you are doing this, obviously. But if you want to confront them gently, you can say, "Please try to be on time tonight. We have a reservation and they will give our table away if we are late." Blaming the restaurant's policy is a great way to enforce punctuality without causing a fight. Let us look at some positive affirmations for when plans go well. You are sitting at the dinner table, the food is great, the company is excellent. You can say, "I am so glad we finally managed to do this," or "This is just what I needed." These phrases validate the effort it took to make the plan. It reinforces the behavior. If you say, "This is just what I needed," after a long week, you are telling your friend that their company is healing and valuable to you. It is a profound compliment wrapped in a simple sentence. You can also say, "We should do this more often." This is the classic line to end a good night. I want to practice some rapid-fire responses for awkward situations. Situation 1, you invite someone out and they say nothing. They just read the message and do not reply. This is called being left on read. Do not double text immediately. Wait a few days. Then you can send a casual follow-up like, "Hey, just checking if you saw my last message." No pressure though. Adding no pressure is key. It shows you are cool. Situation 2, you invite someone and they bring an uninvited guest who is rude. This is tough. You have to be polite but firm. You focus on your friend. You can say later privately, I was a bit surprised you brought X. I wish you had let me know. Situation 3, you double booked yourself. You have 2 plans at the same time. You must choose one. Usually you stick with the one you made first. You call the second person and say, I am so sorry, I realized I actually have a prior commitment that I completely forgot about. A prior commitment is a formal and respectful reason. Let us expand on the vocabulary of venues. A hole in the wall is a small, unpretentious place that often serves great food. You can say, I know this amazing little hole in the wall place that serves the best tacos. A tourist trap is a place that is expensive and crowded and only for tourists. You can say, let's avoid the main square, it is a total tourist trap. A hidden gem is a wonderful place that nobody knows about. You can say, I want to take you to a hidden gem I found last week. Using these descriptors helps you sell your plan. If you say, let's go to a restaurant, it is boring. If you say, let's go to this incredible hidden gem I found, it is exciting. I also want to talk about the phrase to bail. To bail means to cancel or leave abruptly. It is slang. You can say, I am sorry to bail on you last minute, or he bailed on the plan. It is slightly negative, so use it carefully. If you say, I am not going to bail, I promise, it is a strong reassurance. Another similar word is to flake. If someone is a flake, they cancel often. You can say, don't flake on me this time. It is friendly banter if you know them well, but can be an insult if you do not. Let us consider the logistics of digital planning tools. You might say, I will send you a pin. This refers to dropping a location pin on a map app like Google Maps or WhatsApp. Send me a pin of where you are is much more effective than trying to describe the street corner. You can also say, share your live location with me so I can see how far away you are. This technology has changed how we speak about meeting up. We no longer say, I am at the corner of walk and don't walk. We say, check my location. As we approach the end of this section, I want to remind you that the tone of your voice carries 50% of the meaning. When you apologize for being late or forgetting a plan, you must sound distressed. If you say, I am sorry, I forgot with a flat voice, it sounds like you do not care. You have to stretch the words. I am so sorry. The elongation of the word so emphasizes your regret. When you are excited, pitch your voice higher. That sounds amazing. English is a stress-timed language, meaning the rhythm comes from the stressed syllables. Exaggerating these stresses makes you sound more engaged and fluent. Finally, let us talk about the follow-through. If you say we must do this again, soon make sure you mean it. If you want to be proactive, you can set the next date before you leave the current one. You can say, while we are all here, shall we look at dates for next month? This strikes while the iron is hot. To strike while the iron is hot means to take action while the opportunity is fresh. It is the best way to ensure your social life remains active. We have now covered the good, the bad, and the awkward sides of making plans. We have learned how to apologize, how to handle mix-ups, and how to be a persuasive and considerate friend. These are high-level social skills. By practicing these, you are not just learning English, you are learning emotional intelligence in English. We are now moving into what is arguably the most exciting part of making plans, which is organizing special occasions. We are talking about birthdays, weddings, anniversaries, and those big life moments that require a little bit more than just a text message. Planning these events involves a specific set of vocabulary that is richer and more celebratory than our everyday language. When you can navigate these conversations with confidence, you become not just a guest, but a valuable part of the celebration. So let us dive into the language of parties and festivities, because this is where English gets really fun. Let us start with birthdays. The most common question you will ask a friend is, "What are you doing for your birthday?" Notice we use the present continuous, "What are you doing?" because we assume they have a plan. If you want to organize something for them, you might say, "I want to throw you a party." The verb we use for parties is throw. You do not make a party or do a party, you throw a party. It implies energy and effort. You might ask, do you want a big bash or something more intimate? A bash is a slang term for a large, exciting party. Intimate in this context means small, quiet, and just for close friends. Many people prefer a low-key birthday, so asking this question shows you respect their personality. If they say, "I just want a quiet dinner," you can say, "Consider it done." Consider it done is a powerful phrase meaning I will organize it and you do not need to worry about a thing. If you are planning a surprise party, the vocabulary becomes very secretive. You need to tell the other guests to keep it under wraps. To keep something under wraps means to keep it a secret. You might say, "We are planning a surprise for Sarah, so please keep it under wraps." You have to be careful not to spill the beans. To spill the beans means to accidentally reveal the secret. You might warn people, "Do not let the cat out of the bag." This is a classic idiom meaning the same thing. To pull off a surprise party, you often need a decoy. A decoy is a person or a plan used to distract the birthday person. You might say, "John is the decoy. He is going to take Sarah for a coffee while we set up the decorations." When the person arrives, everyone shouts surprise. It is a moment of pure joy, and knowing the setup vocabulary ensures it goes smoothly. Let us talk about milestone birthdays. These are the big ones, like turning 18, 21, 30, or 40. We call them milestones because they mark a significant point in life. You might say it is her big 30, meaning her 30th birthday. For a milestone, people often want to push the boat out. To push the boat out means to spend more money than usual to celebrate. You might say, since it is your 50th, let's push the boat out and go to that Michelin star restaurant. There's also a funny idiom for getting older, which is over the hill. This is usually used for 40 or 50, implying you are past the peak of your youth, but it is used jokingly between friends. You might say, "Happy birthday, you are officially over the hill now." Be careful, though. Only use this with people who have a good sense of humor. Now, a huge part of special occasions is gift giving. If you are organizing a group gift, you need to ask people to contribute. The best phrase for this is, "Would you like to chip in for a gift?" We learned chip in earlier, but here it is specific to buying a present. You can also say, "Let's all go in on a gift." To go in on something means to partner up. You might say, "If we all go in on it, we can buy him that expensive watch he wants." If you are collecting the money, you can say, "I am pooling the money." Pooling means collecting it into one large amount. When you give the gift, you might say it is just a little token of our appreciation. A token here means a symbol. It suggests that the gift represents your feelings. If the gift is small but meaningful, you can say it is the thought that counts. This is a lovely phrase used when a gift is not expensive, but is very personal. Let us shift our focus to more formal events, like weddings. The planning vocabulary here is quite specific. You will receive a save the date card before the actual invitation. When you talk about this, you say, "Did you get the save the date?" It acts as a noun. When the invitation arrives, you must RSVP. We discuss this, but for weddings, it is critical. You might see a card asking for your choice of meal. You might say, "I put down for the chicken option." To put down for means to select. Weddings usually have a ceremony and a reception. The ceremony is the serious part with the vows, and the reception is the party afterwards. You might ask, "Are you going to the whole thing or just the reception?" Some people are only invited to the evening do, which is a British way of saying the evening party. One of the most confusing aspects of formal plans is the dress code. You need to be able to ask and understand what to wear. If the invitation says black tie, it means men must wear a tuxedo or a very formal suit, and women usually wear long gowns. If you are unsure, you can ask, "Is it strictly black tie?" Strictly means there are no exceptions. Another common code is smart casual. This is the hardest one to define. It usually means neat trousers and a shirt, or a nice blouse, but no jeans and no trainers. You might ask friends, "What are you wearing?" just to be safe. If the invitation says "come as you are," it means there is no dress code and you can wear whatever you like. Knowing these terms saves you from the embarrassment of being underdressed or overdressed. To be underdressed means wearing casual clothes to a formal event, while overdressed means wearing a ball gown to a pub. You want to aim for just right. Let us talk about hosting a holiday gathering like Thanksgiving or Christmas, or a national holiday. The host often has to coordinate a lot of food. You might talk about the trimmings. The trimmings are the traditional side dishes that accompany the main meal. You might say, "I will do the turkey, but can you handle the trimmings?" To handle means to take responsibility for. If you are a guest, you should ask, "What time should I arrive to be helpful?" The host might say, "Come a bit early and we can have a drink before the madness starts." Madness here refers lovingly to the chaos of a big family gathering. If there is a lot of food left over, you might be offered a doggy bag or simply leftovers. A doggy bag is a container of food to take home. The host might say, "Please take some food, I have mountains of leftovers." Mountains is a hyperbole for a large amount. When you are making plans for a specific event, like a baby shower or a bridal shower, the language is soft and celebratory. A shower is a party where guests shower the person with gifts. You might say, "We are hosting a baby shower for Jane on Sunday." The organizer often plans games. You might say, "We have a few icebreaker games planned." Icebreakers are short activities to help people who do not know each other feel comfortable. You might ask, "Is there a gift registry?" A registry is a list of gifts the host has selected at a store, so you do not buy something they already have. You can say, "I bought something off the registry." This ensures you got the right thing. Let us discuss the concept of a +1 again in the context of these formal events. If you are in a new relationship, you might want to bring your partner. The rule of thumb is that if the invitation does not say, "and guest," you are invited alone. A rule of thumb is a general principle that is usually true. You might say, "The rule of thumb for weddings is no ring, no bring," which is a rhyming slang meaning if you are not engaged or married, you cannot bring a partner. However, this is old-fashioned now. If you really want to ask, you can say, "I know numbers are tight, but is there any space for my boyfriend?" Acknowledging that numbers are tight, meaning the guest list is limited, shows you understand the cost of hosting. There is also the aftermath of these events. Writing a thank you note is a lost art but very much appreciated. You might say, I need to write my thank yous. If you stayed at someone's house for a weekend, we call the letter you write afterwards a bread and butter letter. This is an old idiom meaning a basic letter of thanks for hospitality. You might text and say, thank you for having us, we had a blast. To have a blast means to have a wonderful time. You can also say you really pulled out all the stops. To pull out all the stops means you made a huge effort to make everything perfect. This is the highest compliment you can pay a host. Let us look at the vocabulary of toasts. At a formal dinner or wedding, people give speeches and propose a toast. You might say, I would like to propose a toast to the happy couple. Then everyone raises their glass and says cheers. If you are planning a dinner, you might say, who is going to say grace? Grace is a short prayer before eating. Even if you are not religious, knowing this term prevents awkwardness if someone asks you to do it. You can just say, I am not very good at public speaking. Perhaps someone else should do it. What about when plans clash with a special occasion? Imagine it is your mother's birthday, but your friend invites you to a concert. You have to decline the concert. You can say, I cannot make it, it is a family commitment. We used this before, but here it is stronger. You can say, it is my mom's birthday, so I am on family duty. Being on family duty implies you have an obligation that you cannot escape, but you accept it willingly. Your friend will instantly understand because family usually comes first. I want to introduce you to the phrase saving the date versus holding the date. Saving the date is for guests. Holding the date is for organizers. If you are trying to book a venue, you might say, can you hold this date for me while I check with my family? To hold a date means to reserve it temporarily without paying the full deposit yet. This is crucial when you are juggling multiple schedules. You might say, we have tentatively held the 14th pending confirmation. Pending confirmation means we are waiting for a final yes. Let us talk about the vibe of different celebrations. A mixer is a party designed for people to mingle and meet new people. You might say it is a singles mixer. A housewarming is a party to celebrate moving into a new house. The classic phrase for a housewarming is, hope you can make it to our housewarming to wet the baby's head. Actually, wait, that is for a baby. For a housewarming, we might just say, come and warm the house. To wet the baby's head is a very British idiom for having a drink to celebrate a birth. It is a bit old-fashioned, but you will hear it. For a retirement party, you might say, we are giving Bob a send-off. A send-off is a leaving party. It implies saying goodbye and wishing good luck. There is also the logistical nightmare of organizing a stag do or a hen do. In American English, these are called a bachelor party and a bachelorette party. These are the parties for the groom and bride before the wedding. Organizing these is often very difficult because they involve travel and activities. You might say, I am in charge of the stag do, and it is like herding cats. Herding cats is a brilliant idiom. Imagine trying to guide 100 cats in one direction. It is impossible. We use this to describe organizing a group of disorganized people. You might say getting everyone to agree on a date was like herding cats, but we finally nailed it. Let us practice some empathetic responses for when someone tells you about their plans. If someone says, I am getting married next year, you say, congratulations, that is wonderful news. If someone says, I am having a quiet birthday this year because I am a bit broke, you say that sounds lovely. Honestly, the quiet ones are often the best. This validation makes them feel better about not having a big party. If someone says they are stressed about organizing an event, you can say, "Stick with it, it will be worth it in the end." Or offer help by saying, "Is there anything I can take off your plate?" To take something off someone's plate means to do a task for them to reduce their workload. I also want to touch on the phrasing of invitations when you are the host. You want to be clear but welcoming. You can say, "Please join us to celebrate," followed by the occasion. You can add, "Light refreshments will be served." Light refreshments usually mean snacks and drinks, not a full meal. If you are serving a full meal, you say, "Dinner will be served." This manages the guests' hunger expectations. If you say cash bar, it means guests have to pay for their own drinks. If you say open bar, it means the host is paying. This is a very important distinction to make clear on an invitation to avoid awkwardness at the end of the night. Let us look at a phrase, RSVP, regrets only. This is a specific type of invitation where you only need to reply if you are not coming. If you do not reply, the host assumes you are coming. This is dangerous if you forget to reply because they will set a place for you. So read the invitation carefully. If it says regrets only and you are not going, you must message them. If you are going, you do nothing. It is designed to save time, but often causes confusion. We should also discuss the concept of the designated driver. When making plans involving alcohol, it is responsible to ask who is the designated driver. This is the person who stays sober to drive everyone home. You can say, "I will be the DD tonight." Using the abbreviation DD is very common. The designated driver usually gets free soft drinks at the bar in some countries as a reward. Acknowledging this role is part of responsible planning. Now let us talk about canceling on a special occasion. This is much worse than canceling a coffee. If you miss a wedding or a funeral, it is a big deal. You need a very good reason. You can say, "I am absolutely devastated, but I cannot attend due to a medical emergency." You must use strong emotional words like devastated or heartbroken to show you understand the gravity of missing the event. You should also send a gift or a card even if you do not go. This maintains the relationship. Finally, let us wrap up this section with the feeling of anticipation. When a big event is coming up, you can say the excitement is building. Or, "I have got butterflies." Having butterflies means you are nervous but excited. You might say, "I have got butterflies about my speech at the wedding." This vulnerability is endearing. We are now going to polish everything we have learned. We are going to look at the secret ingredient that makes native speakers sound so fast and fluid, which is connected speech. And we will walk through a master scenario that combines every skill you have acquired. This is about taking your English from correct to effortless. Let us begin by talking about how these planning phrases actually sound in the real world. When you read a phrase like, "What are you going to do?" it looks distinct and separate. But in rapid spoken English, it sounds more like "whatcha gonna do." This is called reduction. Understanding this is crucial for your listening skills. If you are waiting for someone to say, "Do you want to?" clearly you might miss the invitation because they will likely say, "Do you wanna?" "Do you wanna grab lunch?" Practice this reduction. "Do you wanna?" It feels lazy, but it is actually efficient. Similarly, "let us" becomes "let's." "I have gotta" becomes "I gotta go, I gotta run." Using these reduced forms in casual settings makes you sound much more approachable and less like a textbook robot. However, remember to switch back to the full, clear forms, like "I have to leave" when you are speaking to your boss or a client. Another aspect of advanced fluency is the use of filler words during the planning process. When you are thinking, native speakers do not just stay silent. They use fillers to hold the floor. To hold the floor means to keep your turn in the conversation. You might say, let me see, I suppose we could go to the park. The let me see and I suppose give you time to think without the other person interrupting. You can also use well or actually, or, well, I was thinking, actually, maybe we should try that new place, the one by the river. This sentence is full of fillers, but it sounds incredibly natural. It gives the listener time to process your suggestion. Do not be afraid of these pauses. They are part of the rhythm of human connection. Now I want to address a very modern phenomenon in social planning, which is ghosting. We touched on being left on red, but ghosting is when someone completely disappears without explanation. They stop replying to texts and calls. If this happens to you, you can say, I think I have been ghosted. It is a sad reality of modern dating and friendship. On the less severe side is flaking. If someone cancels last minute repeatedly, they are a flake. You might say to a friend, don't be a flake. This is a warning. I am counting on you, don't be a flake. Using this slang shows you are culturally aware. There is also the term FOMO, which we mentioned, fear of missing out, but there is also JOMO, which stands for the joy of missing out. This is when you are happy to cancel plans and stay home in your pajamas. You can say, honestly, I have got major JOMO tonight. I am just going to stay in and read. This is a great way to express that you are happy with your own company. Let us weave everything we have learned into one master scenario. I want you to close your eyes and visualize this story. Imagine you are planning a reunion for 3 friends, you, Tom and Sarah. You start the conversation on a group chat. You say, hey guys, it has been ages, we are overdue for a catch-up. Tom replies, absolutely, my schedule is pretty packed, but I have a window next Saturday. Sarah says Saturday works for me, I am free all day. You take charge and say, great, let's lock it in. To lock it in means to confirm it definitively. You suggest, how about we check out that new burger joint downtown? Sarah says, actually, I am trying to eat healthy these days. You pivot immediately and say, no worries, let's go for sushi instead, it is lighter. Everyone agrees. You say, shall I book a table for 7? Tom says, can we make it 7:30? I might be stuck at work. You say, done, 7:30 it is. The story continues. On the day of the meeting, you wake up feeling a bit sick. You think about canceling. You text them, guys, I am feeling a bit under the weather, but then you drink some tea and feel better. You text again, false alarm, I am rallying. To rally means to recover energy after feeling tired or sick. It is a great sports metaphor. You get to the restaurant early. You text, I am here, saving us a table at the back. Tom arrives late and says, so sorry, traffic was a nightmare. You say, no stress, we haven't ordered yet. You have a wonderful meal. At the end, the bill comes. Tom reaches for his wallet. You say, let's split it 3 ways. Sarah says, no. I had the expensive wine, let me pay more. You say, don't be silly. It all comes out in the wash. It comes out in the wash is a fantastic idiom meaning it will all equal out eventually over time. So do not worry about the small differences now. You leave the restaurant and say, we must do this again soon. Let's not leave it so long next time. You all hug and head your separate ways. This story contains the opening, the negotiation, the objection, healthy, eating, the adjustment, the time, change, the potential cancellation, the recovery, the arrival, the apology, the bill splitting, and the closing. If you can navigate a scenario like this, you are officially a B2 or C1 speaker in social contexts. You have mastered the flow. You are not just translating words in your head, you are reacting to the situation. I decided to keep the microphone running because as I was reflecting on our journey so far, I realized there is a whole other layer to making plans that we absolutely must discuss to make you truly fluent in the modern world. We've talked a lot about spoken English, but the reality is that 50% or perhaps even more of our planning happens through our screens. It happens via text messages, WhatsApp groups, and direct messages on social media. The rules for writing plans are slightly different from speaking them, and there is a whole code of abbreviations and emojis that native speakers use, which can be completely baffling if you have never been taught them. So in this session, we are going to decode the secret language of digital planning, and we are also going to touch on some very advanced cross-cultural etiquette regarding time that will save you from many awkward misunderstandings. Let us dive right into the world of text abbreviations because speed is everything when you are typing on the go. If you are running late, you might text your friend the letters OMW. This stands for on my way. It is universally understood. You can just type OMW, be there in 5. It is efficient and it lets the other person know you are mobile. Another crucial one is ETA, which stands for estimated time of arrival. You might text your friend asking what is your ETA. This is much faster than typing, what time do you think you will arrive? If you are planning an event but you are not sure of the location yet, you might write venue, TBD, or venue, TBC. TBD stands for to be determined and TBC stands for to be confirmed. Seeing these on an invitation means the plan is happening, but the details are still being finalized, so do not panic. Just wait for the update. Now let us talk about the tone of your texts, because without facial expressions, it is very easy to sound rude or angry even when you are not. In English planning culture, the exclamation mark is your best friend. If you type "see you at 6" with a period, it can look very serious or even demanding. But if you type "see you at 6" with an exclamation mark, it looks cheerful and excited. It implies, I am happy to see you. Similarly, the use of emojis helps to soften the blow of a refusal. If you have to cancel a plan, sending a sad face emoji or a crying face emoji shows you are genuinely upset about missing out. It acts as emotional punctuation. However, be careful with the thumbs up emoji. In some contexts, especially with younger generations, a simple thumbs up can seem passive-aggressive or dismissive, as if you are saying, fine, whatever, do what you want. If you want to agree enthusiastically, it is often better to type sounds good or great, rather than just sending a lonely thumb. I want to introduce you to a very specific social phenomenon called the Irish goodbye. This is a term used when someone leaves a party or a social gathering without saying goodbye to anyone. They just slip out the door. In some circles, this is considered rude, but in others, especially at very large crowded parties, it is actually considered polite, because you do not interrupt the flow of the party by making a big scene about leaving. You might say, later I pulled an Irish goodbye last night because I was so tired. Knowing when to use this requires reading the room. If it is a dinner party of 6 people, you absolutely must say goodbye to everyone. If it is a house party of 50 people, an Irish goodbye is perfectly acceptable. Let us discuss the concept of being stood up. This is a painful topic, but necessary. To be stood up means you went to the meeting place and the other person never came and never called. It is the ultimate insult in the world of planning. If this happens, you might say, "He stood me up." If you are the one who fails to show up without calling, you are the one standing them up. Never be that person. However, sometimes people are just extremely unreliable. We call these people flaky. A flake is someone who agrees to plans but constantly cancels or forgets. You might warn a friend saying, "Do not invite Mark, he is such a flake." Dealing with flakes requires low expectations. You might make a plan B just in case. We also need to talk about the cultural relativity of time, often referred to as high context versus low context time cultures. In low context cultures like the USA, UK, Germany, and Switzerland, time is seen as linear and strict. If you plan for 7 o'clock, it means 7 o'clock. Being late is disrespectful. In high context cultures, which include many Latin American, Mediterranean, and Asian countries, time is often viewed as more flexible and fluid. Relationships are more important than the clock. If you are meeting a friend from a flexible time culture and they are 30 minutes late, they might not understand why you are angry. Conversely, if you are from a flexible culture and you are 30 minutes late to meet a British friend, they might be furious. Understanding this cultural gap is key. You might joke about it saying, "Are we running on Swiss time or Spanish time today?" This lighthearted question clarifies the expectation without being offensive. Let us look at the vocabulary of navigation apps because they are central to meeting up. You might say, "Send me your location," or "Share your live location." This allows you to track them. You might say, "The GPS says, I will be there in 10 minutes. GPS stands for Global Positioning System, but we just use it as a word for the map on our phone. If you are lost, you might say the pin you sent me is in the middle of a river. This means the location marker is wrong. You might ask, "Can you drop a new pin?" Dropping a pin is the action of marking a location on the digital map. This digital vocabulary is just as important as knowing the names of the streets. There is also a term called playing tag. Phone tag is when you call someone and they don't answer, so you leave a message. Then they call you back and you don't answer, so they leave a message. You go back and forth like the children's game of tag. You can say, "We have been playing phone tag all week. Let's just text." This acknowledges the frustration of missing each other. Similarly, email tag happens when you are trying to schedule a meeting and you keep suggesting times that don't work for the other person. You can say, "Let's stop playing email tag and just jump on a quick call to sort this out." This shows you are solution-oriented. I want to give you some phrases for when you need to change a plan midstream. Imagine you agreed to go for a walk, but suddenly it starts pouring rain. You need to pivot. To pivot means to change direction quickly. You can text massive change of plans, "It is pouring rain, let's go to the museum instead." Or simply, "Let's pivot to indoor activities." If you are already on your way but you realize you forgot something, you might say, "I have to double back." To double back means to turn around and go back to where you came from. "I have to double back, I forgot my wallet, go ahead and order for me." This instruction, "Go ahead and order for me," is very useful because it releases the other person from the obligation of waiting for you while they are hungry. Let us talk about the delicate art of the soft number. Sometimes people do not want to say no directly because they think it is rude. Instead, they give a soft no. They might say, "I will have to check my schedule and get back to you." If they never get back to you, that was a no. Or they might say, "Sounds fun, but I am super busy right now." That is a no. As an English learner, it is important to read between the lines. If someone is vague and does not offer an alternative date, they are probably not interested. Do not keep asking them or you will become a pest. A pest is an annoying insect, and we use it to describe a person who does not understand social boundaries. Just let it go and wait for them to come to you. On the flip side, if you want to say no but keep the door open, you must be specific. Do not just say, I am busy. Say, I am swamped this week, but I am totally free next Tuesday. Offering a concrete alternative is the signal that you genuinely want to see them. This is the difference between a soft no and a postponement. If you are dating, this is crucial. If you reject a date without an alternative, they will assume you are not interested. If you reject with an alternative, they will know you are still keen. Keen is a great British adjective for interested or enthusiastic. I am keen to see you. Let us discuss the concept of a +1 in more detail regarding digital invites. If you receive a digital invite, usually on a platform like Evite or a Facebook event, it will say, "Can I bring a guest?" If the setting is disabled, do not ask in the public comments. Send a private message. You can say, "Hey, I saw the invite. Looks amazing. Just wondering if there is space for a +1. No worries if not." Adding "no worries if not" is a magical phrase. It completely removes the pressure. It makes it easy for the host to say, "Sorry, we are at capacity," without feeling guilty. What about when you want to leave a group chat that is planning an event you are not interested in? This is a modern etiquette minefield. If you just leave the group, a message pops up saying Jessica left the group. It looks dramatic. It is better to mute the chat. To mute means to silence the notifications, so you do not see them. If you must leave, write a quick message first saying, "Hey guys, I can't make this one, so I am going to hop off this chat to avoid cluttering my phone. Have a great time." Then leave. This is classy and polite. It explains your action so nobody gets offended. We have spent a lot of time talking about the immediate future, like, what are you doing this weekend, or let's grab dinner tonight, but now I want to expand our horizons. I want to talk about the kind of plans that require a map, a calendar, and big dreams. We are going to talk about planning travel and vacations, and then we are going to pivot to the biggest topic of all, which is planning your life. These conversations are deeper and require more sophisticated vocabulary because you are not just managing time, you are managing your hopes and your budget and your long-term goals. So get comfortable because we are about to start planning the adventure of a lifetime. Let us start with travel. When you plan a trip with friends or family, the first question is always about the destination. You might say, "Where is next on your bucket list?" A bucket list is a list of things you want to do or places you want to go before you kick the bucket, which is a slang phrase for dying. Asking about a bucket list is a great conversation starter. You might say, "I have always wanted to cross Japan off my bucket list." Once you have a destination in mind, you need to discuss the timing. You might say, "We need to block out dates." To block out dates means to reserve them in your calendar, specifically for this purpose, so nothing else can interfere. You might ask, "Are your dates flexible or fixed?" If they are flexible, you can hunt for cheaper flights. You might say, "If we fly mid-week, it is usually cheaper." So let's be flexible with the departure date. Talking about flights involves a specific set of jargon. You might say, "I don't mind a layover if it saves us money." A layover is a stop at an airport in between your departure and your destination. If it is a very long stop, we sometimes call it a stopover. You might say, let's do a stopover in Dubai for 2 days to break up the journey. To break up the journey means to make it less tiring by pausing. If you are tough and you want to save time, you might suggest a red-eye flight. A red-eye is a flight that leaves late at night and arrives early in the morning, so you have red tired eyes when you land. You can say, let's take the red-eye and we will have the whole day to explore when we arrive. It is a brutal way to travel, but very efficient. Then comes the discussion about accommodation. This is where travel styles often clash, so you need diplomatic language. You might say, are we looking for luxury, or are we doing this on a shoestring budget? Doing something on a shoestring means doing it with very little money. If you are a backpacker, you might say, let's just book a hostel and meet people. If you prefer comfort, you might say, honestly, I am at the stage in my life where I need a private bathroom, so let's look for a hotel. There is also the option of an all-inclusive resort. You can say, let's just go all-inclusive so we don't have to worry about paying for meals every day. This implies a desire for total relaxation. If you want to rent a house, you might say, let's look for a self-catering place. Self-catering means the place has a kitchen and you cook your own meals. Now let us talk about the itinerary. An itinerary is your day-by-day plan. Some people love a packed itinerary. They might say, I want to hit the ground running. To hit the ground running means to start being active immediately upon arrival. They might say, let's squeeze in the museum and the hiking trail on day 1. Other people prefer a relaxed pace. You might say, let's not overplan, let's just play it by ear and see where the wind takes us. Seeing where the wind takes us is a beautiful, poetic phrase for wandering aimlessly and happily. You might need to compromise. You can say, how about we book one main activity per day and leave the rest of the time free for downtime? Downtime is essential vocabulary, meaning time to relax and do nothing. When you are planning a trip, you also have to talk about the nitty-gritty of preparation. You might say, I need to sort out my visa, or I need to check if my passport is in date. To be in date means it is not expired. You might ask, do I need to get any jabs? Jabs is British informal slang for vaccinations or shots. You might say we need to pack light because we are only taking carry-on luggage. Carry-on is the small bag you take onto the plane with you to avoid checking a bag. If you are going on a road trip, you might say we need to map out the route. To map out means to plan the direction carefully. You might say, let's take the scenic route. The scenic route is the longer, prettier way, as opposed to the highway, which is fast but boring. Let us shift gears now from planning holidays to planning your life. This is often the topic of conversation with close friends or mentors. You might be asked, where do you see yourself in 5 years? This is the classic interview question, but friends ask it too. You might say, I am working on a 5-year plan. When discussing career plans, you might say, I am hoping to climb the corporate ladder. This idiom describes the process of getting promoted to higher and higher positions. Or you might say, I am planning to pivot my career. To pivot means to turn in a new direction. For example, you might say, I am planning to pivot from marketing to software engineering. This implies a strategic change. Financial planning is another huge topic. You might say, we are saving up for a down payment on a house. A down payment is the initial large sum of money you pay when buying property. You might say, I am trying to build a nest egg. A nest egg is an idiom for a sum of money saved for the future, usually for retirement. You might discuss your retirement plan by saying, I want to retire early, so I am investing aggressively now. Or, I am paying into a pension plan. These are serious adult conversations, and having the vocabulary to discuss them makes you sound very mature and competent. Sometimes life planning involves moving. You might say, I am planning to relocate to the city. Relocate is a formal word for move. You might say, I am looking to put down roots. To put down roots means to settle in one place, buy a house, make friends, and stay there for a long time. It is a gardening metaphor. Conversely, if you are not ready to settle, you might say, I am living out of a suitcase right now. This means you are traveling constantly and not settled. You might say, I want to be a digital nomad for a few years. A digital nomad is someone who works online while traveling the world. Discussing these lifestyle choices is a fascinating part of modern English conversation. Let us talk about the language of setting goals. You might say, my main objective for this year is to learn English. Objective is a strong word for goal. You might say, I have set the bar high for myself. To set the bar high means to have very high standards. If you fail, you might say, I fell short of my goals, but I am going to try again. To fall short means to miss the target. You can also talk about resolutions. New Year's resolutions are the plans we make on January 1st. You might ask, sticking with your resolutions. To stick with something means to continue doing it even when it is hard. There is also the planning of family life. You might hear people say, we are planning to start a family soon. This is a euphemism for having a baby. You rarely say, we are planning to make a baby. In polite company, you say, start a family. You might discuss moving to the suburbs. The suburbs are the residential areas outside the city center. You might say, we want to move to the burbs for the schools. The burbs is a slang shortening of suburbs. This kind of planning involves weighing up the pros and cons. To weigh up means to compare the advantages and disadvantages. You might say, we are weighing up the cost of living versus the quality of life. Let us practice a scenario where you are discussing a major life change with a friend. Imagine you are at a cafe. You say, I have some big news. I am planning to move to Canada. Your friend says, no way, that is a huge step. What brought this on? What brought this on asks for the reason or the catalyst. You reply, well, I have been feeling a bit stagnant in my job here. Stagnant means not moving or growing like water in a pond that does not flow. You continue. So I applied for a visa and I got it. Your friend says that is incredibly brave. Do you have a job lined up? To have something lined up means to have it arranged and ready. You say, not yet, I am going to head over there and test the waters. To test the waters means to try something out cautiously to see if it works. Your friend says, I am going to miss you like crazy, but I am so proud of you for taking the leap. To take the leap means to do something scary but exciting. This conversation shows how we use metaphors like stagnant lined up and take the leap to describe our plans. It adds emotional color to the facts. It is not just, I am moving, it is I am taking a leap. English speakers love these metaphors. We also talk about a safety net. You might say, I have enough savings to act as a safety net if I don't find a job immediately. A safety net prevents you from crashing if you fall. Let us return to travel for a moment and talk about the staycation. A staycation is when you take time off work, but you stay in your own home or your own city. You might say, I am too broke for a holiday, so I am just planning a staycation. I am going to be a tourist in my own city. This is a very common plan. You might say, I'm going to binge watch my favorite show. To binge watch means to watch many episodes in a row. This is a valid plan. You can say, my plan for the weekend is absolutely nothing, and it is going to be glorious. Celebrating the lack of plans is a very cultural thing. We call it unwinding. I need to unwind. What about when plans depend on others? You might say, I am waiting on the green light from my boss. To get the green light means to get permission. Or I am in limbo waiting for the confirmation. To be in limbo means to be in a state of uncertainty where you cannot move forward or backward. It is a frustrating place to be. You might say, everything is up in the air right now. Up in the air means undecided. Once it is decided, you can say the dust has settled. Once the dust has settled, we can make a plan. Let us also touch on the vocabulary of dreaming. Sometimes we make plans that are not real, yet they are just fantasies. We call these pipe dreams. A pipe dream is a hope that is unlikely to happen. You might say buying a castle in Scotland is a bit of a pipe dream, but it is fun to think about. However, we also use the phrase manifesting. This is a modern term. I am manifesting a promotion. It means thinking about it so positively that you believe you will make it happen. You might say, let's create a vision board. A vision board is a collage of images representing your future goals. Planning a vision board party is a fun activity to do with friends. As we wrap up this section on travel and life planning, I want to remind you that the grammar often shifts to the future perfect tense when looking far ahead. You might say, by the time I am 40, I will have visited 30 countries. Will have visited. This structure looks back from a future point. It is very sophisticated. You might say by next year we will have finished the renovations. Practicing this tense helps you sound like a visionary, someone who thinks deeply about the trajectory of their life. We have covered thousands of words and hundreds of expressions ranging from the simple, "Are you free?" to the complex, "Let's touch base," regarding the itinerary. In this final session, we are going to consolidate all that knowledge. I promised you a glossary, but since we do not do boring lists on this channel, I'm going to walk you through the top expressions we have learned by weaving them into a rapid-fire review narrative so you can hear them one last time in context. Let us recall the essentials of flexibility. Remember the phrase, play it by ear. This is your go-to phrase when you do not want to make a firm plan. If you are tired, you say, let's just play it by ear. Contrast this with set in stone. If a plan is set in stone, it cannot be changed. Usually, we use this in the negative, like it is not set in stone, yet meaning we can still change the time. Then there is the famous rain check. Use this when you want to accept an invitation, but you cannot do it right now. Can I take a rain check is the polite way to say ask me again later, and do not forget penciling it in. This implies a tentative plan. I will pencil you in for Tuesday means I am writing it down, but I might have to erase it later. We also discussed the language of social reliability. Do not be a flake. A flake is someone who cancels last minute. If you cancel, you might say something came up. This is the perfect vague excuse for a personal emergency. If you are swamped or tied up, it means you are incredibly busy. If you are running late, it means you are on your way but behind schedule. If you are on your way, you can text OMW. And if you are waiting for someone who is late, you might say they are punctually challenged if you want to be funny, or you might say they are holding me up if you are annoyed. Think back to our section on hosting. To host means to have people at your house. You might throw a party, which means to organize one energetically. You might tell people to make themselves at home, which means to relax. If you ask everyone to bring food, it is a potluck. If you pay for everyone, you say it is on me or my treat. If you split the bill, you go Dutch or simply split it. And if you leave without saying goodbye, you are pulling an Irish goodbye. Now, I want to test your memory with some situational challenges. I am going to describe a situation, and I want you to shout out the correct phrase at your screen before I say it. Are you ready? Situation number 1. Your friend invites you to the cinema tonight, but you have a lot of homework and you feel very tired. You want to go, but not tonight. You want to suggest going next week instead. What is the perfect idiom to use here? Think about it. The answer is rain check. You should say, I would love to, but I am swamped tonight. Can I take a rain check? Did you get it? Situation number 2. You are organizing a meeting with 5 friends. Everyone is suggesting different times and nobody can agree. It is chaotic. You feel like you are trying to control a group of wild animals. What is the idiom for this? It involves cats. The answer is herding cats. You could say trying to organize this dinner is like herding cats. Situation number 3. You are at a restaurant with a friend. You offer to pay the bill, but they say no. You want to insist. You want to tell them that you will pay this time and they can pay next time. What do you say? The phrase involves a washing machine. The answer is it all comes out in the wash. You say, don't worry about it, I will get this one. It all comes out in the wash. Situation number 4. You are not sure if you want to go to a party on Saturday. You want to see how you feel on the day before you commit. Your friend asks for a definite time. What phrase do you use to ask for flexibility? It involves music. The answer is, play it by ear. You say, I am not sure yet, let's just play it by ear. Situation number 5. You run into an old friend at the supermarket unexpectedly. You are surprised. What is the standard greeting? The answer is fancy meeting you here or small world. If you got those right, you are doing amazingly well. If you missed a few, do not worry, that just means you need to listen to the earlier parts of this series again. Repetition is how these phrases stick in your long-term memory. You cannot just hear herding cats once and expect to remember it forever. You need to use it. Write it down. Say it to your dog. Say it to yourself in the mirror. I want to leave you with some advice on how to practice this in the real world. Many of you might say, but Jessica, I do not have English friends to make plans with. That is a common problem, but it is not an excuse. You can practice this mental planning every day. When you look at your own calendar, think in English. Instead of thinking in your native language, I have a dentist appointment at 2, think I am tied up at 2 with the dentist. When you are cooking dinner, think I am whipping up some dinner. When you send a text message to a friend in your own language, translate it into English in your head before you hit send. This is called shadowing your life. It turns every moment of your day into a language lesson. Also, pay attention to movies and TV shows. Scenes where characters are making plans are in almost every single episode of every sitcom, like Friends or The Office. Watch how they interrupt each other. Watch how they use and ah. Watch how they use body language to show they are unsure. Making plans is 50% language and 50% social negotiation. Observe the dynamics. Notice how a boss makes plans differently from a lover. Notice how a parent makes plans with a child. English is a living, breathing thing, and you are now a student of its behavior. We have come to the end of our time together for this topic. I hope you feel empowered. I hope you feel that the next time someone asks, "What are you up to this weekend?" you will not just freeze and say nothing. You will say, "Actually, I have a few things in the pipeline, but I am mostly keeping it low key." Look at that sentence. In the pipeline means being planned. Low key means relaxed. You are combining idioms like a pro. Please remember to check the description box if I have left any notes or resources for you. If you have enjoyed this long-form, continuous style of learning, please let me know. It is very different from the short, fast videos we usually see on social media, but I believe this deep immersion is what truly changes your brain. You've been listening to English for a long time now, and your brain has been soaking up the rhythm and the flow. Trust that process. So for the final time on this topic, I am Jessica. This is English in Advance, and I am signing off. Go out there, make plans, meet people, and live your life in English. You have the tools, now use them. Thank you for listening, thank you for studying, and I will see you in the next series. Goodbye for now, and happy planning.